time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and our Episode 8 Andor review. We're going to be chatting about Narkina 5 with Kirk and Darian, who have kindly joined us in the Escape Pod this week. And before we get started, if any of you have checked out our podcast on Podbean, and I've seen a lot of notifications saying that people have been subscribing on there. That's really cool. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining Star Wars Escape Pod. And we're looking forward to having you on this really fun ride as we chat about Star Wars on a weekly basis. So let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right, I'm going less crazy now this week. The intro is definitely different every week. You know, I think we've got the final proof now that that every week. I went back to the first one and I was like, yeah, it's different. It's got to be different. So
I noticed it this week as well. I actually thought my speakers were broken when it started playing.
yeah, it sounded very like kind of rusty and like eerie a little bit, and yeah, just different, right? So, welcome back to the podcast, Kirk and Darian.
How's it going?
Good. You know, it's been a crazy week. I mean, you know, we had a lot of Star Wars drop on one day. It was, you know, we had a whole season of Tales of the Jedi, and then we had the new episode of Andor, and you know, it was a lot to consume all in one night. So we're lucky. We're lucky Star Wars fans.
Yeah, what did you end up watching first? Did you go with Tales or Andor that night? If you watched them all in the same night.
Oh yeah. You know what? I think come to think of it, I went with Tales first, and then it was Andor after. So Tales was the priority. I think I was just so excited for Tales of the Jedi that I just had to get that out of the way. But it was also shorter, so you know, we just kind of did that first and then Andor after. But what about you? Did you manage to cram them all in on one sitting?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like I watched I went to go watch Andor first, and then I saw it was like 58 minutes long. And usually I'm like, oh, this is great, a long Star Wars episode. I'm going to jump right into it. But then I saw that the few episodes of Tales of the Jedi were pretty much the same time length as one Andor episode. And I didn't want anything spoiled on Twitter and stuff, so I jumped into Tales first, which is surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, you know that you're like a fanboy or whatever term you want to use. When if you don't watch something the day of, your internet cookies just spoil it for you the next day, right? Because it just knows where to pull in all those articles and just sends it to your face. It's just reminding you what a terrible nerd you are for not watching this the day it came out. You know, it's like your consequence.
Have you guys been watching it like right at release? Like, Kirk, I don't know about you, but does it come out at midnight?
For me, it comes out roughly like 6 p.m. on a Friday, which is
perfect.
Like kind of perfect timing.
Wow, that is perfect.
Yeah, which is great. So I don't have to like stay up late for anything. And usually, as soon as I finish the episode, there on Twitter, there's always screenshots of the episode I've just watched, which is like super annoying because I don't want to miss out on it. But sometimes I can't watch it straight away. But I guess that's just what happens when you're social media feed is custom to Lucasfilm content.
Yeah. Darian, I know you haven't seen Tales, so we're not gonna mention any details about that. But Andor, did you prioritize that? Like, do you do that at midnight, or do you just wait for Wednesday?
I have so for us, I guess it comes out midnight on what, Tuesday?
Yeah, it's like the Tuesday to Wednesday midnight cusp. Yeah,
I watch it Wednesday after work with a friend every week, so that's when I watch it.
Yeah.
I think this week it might have been Thursday actually, but yeah. I don't know.
Where's your friend on the podcast? We got to bring him on.
I know. Yeah, he lives in Wisconsin actually. 3 hours. So it's what is that? 10 o'clock his time.
Do you do the
we'll get him on.
Do you do the Disney remote party watch?
We have, but it's kind of a hassle because I think you have to set it up. There's something that's difficult with setting up, or has been for us. So
yeah.
Now I just call him up and go like 3, 2, 1. We just like press go at the same time.
Yeah, that's a little easier.
Just
Yeah.
like video chat or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had any good experience with the. I tried to do that while watching season 2 of The Mandalorian a couple years ago when the feature first came out. Because we're like here where I am, we're all in lockdown and we couldn't get together, but it would always like bug out and not work. So
yeah, I've had the same issues. It just does that weird
synced
skipping.
up.
Like it skips like 3 seconds at a time sometimes, you know, when it tries to like sync up everybody again. And yeah, it's annoying. It's just like, you know what?
yeah.
We'll just hit like the hyperspace, you know, sound and sync up like right when it kind of does its thing, right? So that was how we did it a few times, like when we were doing the commentary tracks and stuff like that. It was just, you know, we had a couple people all in the room at the same time, so just made it a little more bandwidth compliant. But this week, Andor episode 8, Narkina 5. Bix returns, Andor in prison, Andy Serkis back in Star Wars. We got a shower scene. You know, we got a lot of stuff in this episode, and it was pretty exciting. I mean, yeah, very apparent that there's a shift in the logo music, how the episodes open up. That's now kind of confirmed, and we got a look at the Bureau of Standards, which is where Cyril is, I guess, working, right? The ISB collects Cyril for interrogation. He's got the coolest looking tie. I don't know. Did you notice that, Kirk?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and get this into my workplace, like a workspace uniform, this new Star Wars tie that came out. But this episode, I think there was one moment when, I won't go too into it, but like just yet, but when they're just entering this facility, after watching this episode and how stressed I felt, I needed to go outside and just like take a breather, because it was just, I don't know if anyone else felt this way, but it was just so mentally inducing, and I felt so claustrophobic watching it, which is a good thing, I guess. That's what they tried to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was crazy.
I got the same feeling. I just had to kind of like take it in for a second, go like, dang, like I thought for sure he'd start to devise a plan to get out of prison. I mean, you know, but here we are. I mean, he's still there. You know, flash forward 30 days. Darian, you have any thoughts about this one? Kind of initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I left this episode with a lot of questions. Like, first of all, what are they making? Is that obvious? Like, or do you guys know what they're making? Like,
I
I
was trying to figure it out, but like I actually, you know, I didn't recognize any of the parts or anything like that. I thought it might be like I thought it might be components that could be used in the Death Star, or you know, even like droid parts or something like that. But do you have any good like guesses for it?
Yeah, well, I was waiting for them to like zoom out at the end or something and show where these parts are like going towards some sort of ship, I think. But I was just wondering the whole time, like, what is he making?
Yeah.
And like you said, I think Josh, I was just waiting for him to escape as well.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea how he's gonna get out of there. It seems pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's a little depressing.
Yeah, but it was cool to see Saw Gerrera, too. I've been waiting for that. So overall, I would give this episode maybe a 7.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely one of the better ones. I mean, I gotta say, like, I know I just mentioned the tie, but I gotta say the costume design for this show is really well done. Like they do a spot on job with all the costumes. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the tie that Cyril wears in the ISB interrogation room. It's like a very Star Wars tie, something I've never seen before. It was like something that was just coming out of his shirt, you know, with like a little oval clasp kind of around it. I thought that was really neat. It was just really smart kind of costume design. Things we haven't seen before. We've been able to see a lot of like casual wear that hasn't really shown up in Star Wars before. I mean, we see a lot of Jedi monk costumes and like things that people with royalty and wealth wear, like senators and people in power, right? And we see the trooper designs, right? Like a lot of grunts and people with guns and on the front lines. We never just see the average dude, you know, like this is a guy who was just fired from his job and he's like got a new job, you know, he's hanging out at his mom's place, gets a new job, goes to work, he's wearing a tie. It's like, yeah, I mean, like we've never really seen anything like that before in Star Wars, and it's kind of neat to see just a bit more, you know, different perspectives, right? Like it's kind of broadening, like widening the galaxy a little bit more. Yeah, Cyril finally crosses paths with Dedra. This is something I think, you know, early on, some of us were kind of thinking about this, you know, thinking it was going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Finally did. She gains the information she needs to fill in some of the gaps about this whole Andor situation, and he tries to hire himself on to the ISB. Gets shot down for it. I noticed in the room around the windows, the security cameras, you guys noticed they're the same security cameras as on the Death Star that Han and Chewie are kind of like shooting at in the prison cell. They're like those cameras with like the square.
No, I didn't notice
Yeah,
that.
it's the
No.
same cameras. I thought that was a really nice little touch. You know, just background stuff. But I was like, that's great. You know, just like
They've really done a wonderful job, and especially on the costumes, as you were saying before, as well as like the set to design of like
Yeah.
extending what the original trilogy kind of began. It's like these interrogation rooms and the offices, and like they've done a really wonderful job at how it all looks, and like down to the prison uniforms. It's quite interesting to see the parts that we haven't seen before, as kind of redundant as that sounds. But I think it's really cool to also notice, and something that I noticed a lot is all the Imperial officers have different ranks on their shirts and everything.
Mhm.
And I've seen like the most amount of differences between all the Imperial officers. Obviously, we've seen it in Rebels and I think a little bit in the Clone Wars, but just those little details I tend to pick up on a bit more with this show compared to the OT.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's a bit of a controversial kind of like, you know, do people like this, do people not, as far as the pacing of the show goes. I know I've heard criticisms from people, you know, like and it's not a bad thing. I mean, you know, it's just like some people like it, some people don't. And I've at times felt it to be a bit slow, but there's also something to appreciate about it as well, in the sense that we do have time to experience these things in the story that we might not otherwise see or notice, or, you know, and it's just kind of, I just have a different appreciation for the show than I do with some of the other Star Wars shows that we get. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just good production value, right? Like the whole thing is just really well done. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like when we look back at Andor in maybe like 10 years time, there's going to be like a massive, like, I guess, understanding of like how significant Andor is for Star Wars storytelling, because now when you look at the original trilogy and even the other episodes and you see this empire, you have more of a want and a feel to back the rebellion and understand exactly the bad things that the empire are doing, apart from just being the bad guys.
yeah.
Compared to, I know there's like a picture out there of a few people saying like, oh, the empire did nothing wrong and the rebellion was just like a bunch of like rebel terrorists going to blow up a big corporation.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's a common kind of story, but I think there's a big significance with how Andor really grounds and puts you into the perspective of what it's like to be in the universe and how bad it can be.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was Ben. Ben has come on the show a few times, and yeah, he I think he mentioned to me it was like he wasn't the biggest fan of the pacing and stuff. I can totally see why that is too. You know, it's not like there's certainly areas which I could see that being a little slow for some people, but yeah, Darian, what were your thoughts on like I mean, I know you like this episode quite a bit, but overall, like with the show's pacing, like did you have any thoughts so far now that we're kind of over the halfway point that You know, you're like, is this kind of like living up to expectations? Is it too slow in some areas?
Yeah, I like that it's like different than the other shows. I feel like Boba Fett and Mandalorian's been a lot more action like right away.
Oh yeah,
where
those
this is
speeder
definitely-
chases really had me gripping. Edge of my seat
Yeah.
material.
Yeah, not those, but yeah, I appreciate the difference. Sometimes I do miss the action. Like this episode we just watched, there wasn't really a ton of action, and like my friend I watched with was like, "Wow, like this show's really boring." So like someone like him, he really likes the action.
Mhm.
So I'd be interested to know like the viewers like how it's been week to week, if it's increasing, decreasing, staying the same. Like I wonder if they're going to keep going with this kind of slower pace. But yeah, in conclusion, I do appreciate the difference, but I like both. Like I do like the action too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a nice difference for sure.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got Tales of the Jedi this week because I felt so uncomfortable for watching this episode, and then it was good to see some good action in Tales. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a few episodes back, episode 5 in Andor, the most amount of action we got was a ship flying past. And by Star Wars standard, that's really not that much excitement and action. So it's good that we got both shows coming out, but like I totally understand people that aren't as much of a fan as the slower paced material, but maybe, you know, when maybe it's something that you watch in the background in the future for those people, who knows.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's a good way to put it too. Like if someone doesn't want to make the time to kind of watch this Star Wars show, but they still really love Star Wars and they don't really feel like, you know, trying to like swallow this one down, if that's how they look at it, like, yeah, just throw it on in the background while you're making dinner or something. You know, it's like there's still some really good moments for like people who want some good action. I mean, we've had a few really good episodes with some good moments like that. But
for it being as slow as it is, I do find the show jumps around a little bit too much. I don't know. There seems to be a lot going on at once, and like, I wasn't on the episode you guys talked about the heist and kind of the ending of that, but I didn't really like how they didn't explain how those girls got away. Especially the one girl was on another planet with like the cargo ship. Like, how did she get away with that? How did she even hide all that money? Did they explain that? Or
no,
was I just sleeping on that?
she kind of just shows up. More recently, she showed up on Ferrix. We see her with Vel, like they're scoping out Ferrix for Andor.
they both
They're
got
looking
out,
for
right?
him, right? Yeah, that was like the other than this episode, the last time we saw her was on that planet right after the heist.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think I would have appreciated an explanation on that.
it would have been a cool episode to try and see her get off world when all of a sudden the Empire's freaking out, sending reinforcements to kind of investigate the whole thing, right? Like, yeah, I totally agree. I think there was a story there that could have been told. But yeah, I mean, you know, with the show being about Andor primarily, I guess maybe it wasn't a priority in the writing room. But I totally agree though. Yeah, like there's some moments I think we missed out on with all the time hopping. Andor in this episode is sent to prison on Narkina 5, which is a moon near a gas giant. At first, it looks like a prison. There are all these things on, like all these giant, massive building lily pad things on the ocean, essentially. And it reminded me a lot of The Raft from, if any Marvel fans out there, you know about The Raft. I think The Raft appeared in Captain America Civil War, you know, for any MCU fans. It's just a giant prison where they keep superpowered individuals. More recently in the She-Hulk show that made an appearance, I think, maybe, I can't remember, but it's where they were keeping Abomination and a bunch of other characters, Spider-Man Remastered or on PS4, PS5, whatever you played it on. The Raft is in the background in the New York, you know, surrounding water. But this prison doubles as a work camp. So being a work camp, they kind of have their enslavement ways, and the floors actually double as nighttime security death traps and prisoner consequences, which gives us a look at how the Empire kind of builds so quickly, right? Like slavery, prison camps, this is the workforce that builds an empire. And there's a quote from Palpatine in the Clone Wars where he says to Dooku, long have empires been built upon the backs of slaves. And I always thought it was such a great line because, you know, we're finally kind of seeing this. Like it's long been like a lore thing that Wookiees and Geonosians were always two species that were enslaved and helped build the Death Star and, whatever else, right? So it's kind of neat to see how even prisoners of the Empire are just kind of put to work. And, it's terrible, but I say neat as in like, it's great story material. And I don't know, I just really liked this episode, seeing kind of like what this prison was like and, all the little things. But did you guys have any thoughts about this prison?
I mean, whenever I watch a prison movie, so maybe specifically and most known like Shawshank Redemption, like you always feel like they're gonna get out in the end, and it's pretty easy to get out. They'll find some cracked thing. But I'm watching this episode. I'm like, how on earth is he actually going to get out with someone else blowing up the place? Because it just seems so clinical and kind of medical and clean, and everything is so tightly organized. So they better come up with a really great way with how he gets out of this prison, because I felt very trapped and kind of almost claustrophobic watching this episode.
I think it's totally supposed to give you that feeling too. It was so almost like after that 30-day time jump too. I mean, we get the scene with them in like the showers and in the hallways, and everything's just so confined and like tidy, and like everyone's in lines, and like it's just so like almost like the word drone comes to mind. Like they just get assigned a number and just kind of, drone's a perfect word, because like the characters that had obviously been there for quite some time, it's like they were used to it, and that they'll just like, yep, this is life now. They had no complaints about, apart from that little incident when they were talking to each other about gossip on the outside world. But especially Andy Serkis's character, he was like fully, this is life, this is totally normal, and it's accepted, Yeah. Don't slow down my line. Andy Serkis plays Snoke in the sequel films. He makes his return to the Star Wars saga as a character called Kino Loy, who is the unit manager of 52D, which is, I guess, maybe, what is it, level 5, room 2D or something like that. No idea, but that's kind of how he introduces himself.
When I saw him first, I'm like, oh, is this actually going to be like Snoke?
This is Snoke, yeah.
Is this
Let's just go with that.
Yeah, is this like Snoke a Star
This
Wars story?
prisoner is going to die. They're going to keep his corpse and randomly just select that corpse for like experimentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think he's a brilliant actor. I think it's great that they're able to do that. I mean, they've done that in the MCU as well. Like they've recycled actors here and there for different roles, as long as they're not super recognizable. And I think it's a great idea, because it's a bit of a shame to kind of give him a role like Snoke, which kind of didn't turn out the way a lot of us thought it would, and didn't become nearly as awesome as it could have been. And then it's like, well, that's a bit of a shame. Like, he's a great actor. Like, I would have loved to have seen more of that, and we just didn't get it. So it's cool to see him back.
When I first saw him, I actually thought, I'm like, oh, it's Alfred, because I've just like
yeah, that's right, like, the Batman,
from the Batman. And he looked kind of similar to him, but yeah, he played a great part. He's a really good actor.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was Smeagol.
I'd love to see a montage with like, just random families around the world, like, look, it's, and then fill in the blank, right? Like, yeah, that'd be cool. A new element is introduced to Star Wars in this episode. It's called tungstoid steel, which is what the floors and ceilings are made of, I guess, in this prison building. And we've never seen tungstoid steel before. I think anyone watching who wondered whether or not it was an Easter egg, I don't believe it is. I've never heard of it before. And after looking it up, there's no Wikipedia entry about it. There's no mention about it anywhere. So, yes. 12-hour shifts for work. Andor's assigned table 5, high stress, 12-hour environment as they race to compete against other tables in the room, while Kino Loy races to whip his room faster than the other rooms on the floor. And there's 7 floors in the building. So, very kind of like high stress environment. Again, like you said, Kirk, like super claustrophobic. No one gets a break. No one slows down the line. Otherwise, they get zapped if you come last. And first place gets flavor in their food, which I can only imagine is just probably looks very similar to the gray stuff from Beauty and the Beast. Like, just like, let's have some like bland oatmeal kind of yogurt stuff that just has protein and vitamins in it and doesn't taste like anything at all. And that would be really, miserable.
Yeah, that was one of the parts that really made me feel claustrophobic in the show. Because when he got the first tour about his cell and they just showed, oh, that's where your food comes out of. I thought it was like a handle. He opens it up and like I guess in like Space Odyssey, where like where the food kind of comes out on a tray.
Yeah.
But then when he started sucking on the tube, I'm like, that's got to be that's
Just
not
sludge.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was just like, oh wow, that's where they're going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just sludge. I think it was just kind of when you picture like prison food as just like scooping out, like a slop, right? And then just on the plate, right? And I think in Clone Wars they did that too. They made a joke about that in the Republic prison, but I think it was kind of brilliant. I think to kind of feed people through like a straw. It makes it even more depressing, right? Like
exactly. And I thought it was even stranger when that title card came up when Andor was like, it was like 30 shifts later. Andor he just grabbed the tube and he was eating on it and he looked totally contempt or kind of hypnotized that this is just, he didn't kind of seem or display any sort of frustration with this. So yeah, that's what kind of added to it as well.
Yeah, this is life now. Let back to work, and then just someone killing themselves in the middle of the night. It's like
deep fried.
It's just so depressing,
Yeah.
Tay returns in this episode to Mon Mothma's place, or maybe it's a venue. I'm not entirely sure. Another party going on, and he says new banking regulations are making his job difficult to move her money. And she's trying to move $400,000, or credits, I should say. PORD is a very big subject. So public order regulation, something or another. It's they're cracking down essentially on anyone who takes up arms against the Empire. Crimes for that have been quadrupled, if not 10 times more lengthy in prison than they used to be. And Imperial crackdown on planets is increasing. And I think this kind of leads into what Luthen says to Saw in this episode about how he intends the Empire to react this way. He wants them to crack down hard on the galaxy because he says oppression breeds rebellion. And I thought that was like a really, really divisive thing for him to actually want, because even though he's a rebel and he wants to fight the Empire, he's, it's in no one's, I would hope it's in no rebels, we're doing this for the greater cause. If that's the way they're rolling, why would you want people to suffer, right? Like, it's like, I had an interesting kind of like thought process thinking about like, wow, that's a very curious thing for him to say. Like, his strategy is for the Empire to really freak out at what they're doing so that other people get really upset about the Empire, and it's almost as if that's going to be kind of the only real, rock to break the ice, or whatever, however you want to, say it, for them to have people rise up against the Empire, right? Rather than people
Didn't
just kind of
the police girl, I forget her name, the blonde lady.
Yeah, Dedra.
Dedra, didn't she say the same thing? Like, this is exactly what they want.
Yeah, I think she kind of had her own opinions about whether or not, they were reacting in a way that perhaps the rebels want them to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And almost as if exactly how they're playing off of the plan to separate ISB officers' territories on a map. It's just how they do their shifts, but the rebels are using that to their advantage because somehow they have that information, right? So it's kind of like the spies are everywhere, and we're not necessarily seeing who those spies are up front, but this information is getting out and people know about it, and just the right people know about it, because otherwise they wouldn't successfully be able to pull off these things. So as the episodes go by, we're slowly kind of seeing like the reveal of this greater rebellion that's about to happen, and also kind of a bit of a foreshadow of this revolution that's about to begin. So I thought that was very, very cool. Very well written content.
Yeah, despite them stealing all the stuff from the is it Aldani, the mine or the facility, it still really feels like that the rebellion, apart from seeing Saw, that kind of gave it a bit more of a foundation. It really does feel like they haven't got their stuff together yet, and it's still very early days.
Yeah, absolutely. The only hope I think we have for Andor breaking out of prison is it might have something to do with those people doing sign language, through the windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was gonna be some sort of a rebellion happen right there. They're all just gonna go nuts.
Yeah. Something. I was very curious. I was like, oh, this is interesting. There's a couple of them on different rooms of different floors. I wonder if they all knew each other before, or if they've been here so long that they've just managed to find a way to communicate with other people in other areas. And I have a feeling that this particular we've seen like a 3-episode story arc happen so far in this show. I have a feeling that this story arc might actually take us to the end of the show, unless maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the next episode is just gonna surprise us and big time jump happens. All of a sudden, that's the one that he breaks out. I have a feeling it's gonna go at least another 2. But I wouldn't be surprised at all at the pacing of this show so far if it just goes the rest of the way. So,
yeah, hopefully they don't show him in if they're gonna do that. Like, I don't think they can show the prison anymore and without people getting not interested. Like, they'd have to really start diving into the other storylines because it's 12-hour shifts and they're working on that machinery. Like, what else are they gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
So, I kind of hope they escape next episode, or at least we see some more action in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right; it could definitely go until the end.
Considering it's an Andor show, I feel like if we focus on Andor in prison, there's not much more to tell compared to Andor helping out the Aldani prison heist. Sorry, not the prison heist, the fortress heist. So yeah, I'm
Right.
definitely with you guys on that. I really hope that we get maybe half an episode where he's in prison, and then the remaining half of episode 9, he breaks out or something happens. But I don't really see them going too many more episodes into this prison life, as much as it's really riveting content. I hope he does break out and we start to see a little bit more of a formation of the rebellion and how the ISB and Deirdre and Cyril react to it.
It's possible that our hope for Andor's escape actually lies in someone else's hands. I don't know if anyone's thought of this yet, but it might be that Dedra actually discovers, now that we've kind of followed her to Ferrex and she's investigating the whole event there, we see Bix return to the show. She's arrested. The person who she borrowed the comm, in the back lot, his name is Pack. Dedra plays some mind games with having her enter the room just as he's kind of like supposed to be gone by then, and that was kind of twisted stuff. But she wants to get information out of Bix about the rebellion and about Andor specifically, trying to get an idea for what this thing is all about, right? It might be that Dedra realizes, like, she catches up with where Andor is, and she might be the one to actually go in to get him to question Andor. Maybe she gets Andor, brings him out of that place to question him elsewhere, or to help her kind of nail someone else, whatever. Maybe it's Luthen, and then Andor makes his escape while they're kind of like doing the thing. So,
I think there's a few different avenues that could happen in terms of Andor's escape. Like, as you said, there's Dedra, there's Luthen, who still has the request to break him out. Cyril, as well as the people doing sign too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who breaks him out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I mean,
Did we lose him?
that's.
Josh, are you there?
Oh, maybe they can't hear me. 1 second. 1 second. We're coming back.
Being in and out.
Oh, there we go. Are we back?
Yep.
You're back.
Hello.
We're back. Okay.
Back.
Weird. All right. Well, do you guys have any last minute things you want to bring up before we close? Any speculation for next week?
I was just saying that I think it's either going to be the different avenues where Andor could break out. So we've got Dedra, we've got Bix who's still in play, Luthen, as well as Luthen's colleagues as well, who are still looking for him. In addition to Cyril and the people doing sign language inside the prison, that could be avenues for him to escape. So
It's a lot of options.
All hope isn't lost, but it's good. There's lots of different storylines that could happen, and we'll see
True.
how they all come together, and they'll have a big Christmas party or something when it's all over.
What about you, Darian? Any last minute things to bring up?
Yeah, I want to say it'll be Luthen. I could see him kind of escaping because he wants to cover himself and like get Andor out of there, but we'll see.
All right. Cool, guys. Well, thank you both for coming back in Star Wars Escape Pod, and we'll hopefully catch you in the next one.
Yeah, see you later.
Goodbye.
All right, and to all you listeners at home, big thank you to tuning into the show. Big thank you to Kirk and Darian for coming back. And just a quick mention of our upcoming episodes. I mean, we'll have episode 9 Andor breakdown review, I guess, later this week. And Tales of the Jedi just came out last Wednesday, as you were hearing us talk about that. So we have planned 2 different breakdowns for that. One about the Ahsoka episodes and one for the Dooku episodes. There's a lot to get into there with crossing over storylines, retroactive changes to existing stories, and it's all going to be very interesting. So definitely don't miss that. And be sure to do us a favor. Drop us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever platform you use. If it has a rating system, that would really help us out. Send in a voicemail. Let us know your thoughts on this past episode for Andor. And feel free to join the Discord. Send us an email at swskpodcast@gmail.com, and we will see you in the next one. May the Force be with you.